Welcome back to Seriously Funny. I'm your host, Mashnor Kabir, and I hate trigonometry. This week, I have no script whatsoever. I just have some thoughts that I thought I would share with you over the course of. Over the course of the last few weeks, I've edited some of my episodes, mostly, noticeably, the audio episodes, and I sound absolutely and utterly depressed. It is not good, but I wanted to get on here and kind of discuss that and talk about that. And I really don't try to make this podcast at all about me and my life. I share the experiences, the lessons, and the knowledge that I have and that I've gained through my life, but I don't really talk about me. I just don't like doing that overall, really. But I thought I would go ahead, come on here, and give a little bit of context there. So, to avoid self incrimination, and also because I've never actually gotten a proper, uh, how would you say, uh, analysis? I don't know, whatever. I've dealt with the big I was really going to say Big D over the course of this episode, and I thought that would be super, super funny. And honestly, I think it would be funny, but I'm not going to do that. We'll just say the Big Sad, okay? And so I've dealt with the big sad before, and if you know what that means, you know what that means. But it's a part of my life, it has been. And so I'm going to break that down a bit. And I talked a little bit about this if you recall my episodes on mental disorders that I made close to a year ago now. It's been a while. I think that was last winter. So, yeah, that was 2020 winter. And so if you go back to there, I talk about it a little bit. I talk about different types of depression, and I talk about how there's so generally the definitions have changed over time. So back in the day, it used to be unipolar and bipolar, which would be unipolar is like a constant feeling of sad, and then bipolar is obviously your ups, like high highs, low lows. And so now those are renamed MDD, major depressive disorder, and manic depressive disorder. I guess that's also MDD, huh? But the other one I talked about in that episode was and is congruent depression. And so congruent depression is pretty interesting because I don't think it's considered a lot of times. I think a lot of people is just like, oh, I'm depressed, go do drug. No, but also, just by the way, I do support antidepressants, so I'm not making fun of them. But why is everything so absolutely and utterly shaky right now? Okay, does that help a bit? Oh, my lamps in the background. We don't want that. Okay, we'll do that. Does that help a bit? Hopefully, it does. Who knows? There we go. That's a little better. But anyways, in congruent depression, if your life is absolute and utter garbage and bad things are happening in your life and it's rough and it's hard, yeah, you're going to be depressed. That makes sense, right? That's normal. That is what you would expect the response to be. As a human being, if things are going wrong, you're gonna feel sad, right? That's not some big brain crazy thing. You don't need an effing degree to say that to someone. And so a lot of people, if your life is hard and you're struggling and you get depressed because of it, that makes sense. It's not really per se a mental illness. It's just a mental reaction. That's just how you're going to feel, right? I mean, some people are super resilient and they won't, but more or less, generally, that's what's gonna happen. And so then there's also, of course, the actual diagnosable mental disorder and mental illnesses, which is manic depressive disorder, major depressive disorder, unipolar, bipolar, whatever you want to call it. And so those are way more clinical in nature. So it's more of, and obviously, if you have congruent, it can become clinical, right? But if we look at it and we look at what it actually is, depression is a sort of it's a not sort of it is a neurochemical imbalance in the brain, and there are some physiological responses that we've attached to it. For example, inflammation or higher rates of inflammation is a common side effect or symptom of of depression, right? So we see that there's more interleukin 2 and 6 in the body. Interleukin is an inflammatory cytokine within the body. A cytokine is like a sort of messenger cell. It like tells your cells like what to do and how to react to things. And so, you know, we talked a little bit about it over, sleep, but inflammation generally isn't good. Inflammation is related to quite a number of things, and obviously sometimes it's necessary, so if you're sick, there's some inflammation, and that happens for a reason. If you get wounded, there's some inflammation that happens for a reason. But a lot of times, if you're having inflammation for any other reason, it's probably not a good thing. That's arthritis. That's your body doing bad things and weird things, like irregular immune responses. Overall, it's not good. And there is a basis for what did I just brain work. For inflammation and depression, there's a basis for a relationship there. There's a strong correlation, though we don't know which way the relationship is or if it's bidirectional. I don't know. It's still being looked into, or at least I haven't looked into it personally in a while now. And so, anyways, if you are if you have a more clinical form of depression, usually a lot of times this is the people that it's like your life is fine. You don't really have any problems or issues. Overall, you have no reason really to be depressed per se, but you still feel it and you still go through it. And generally, that's just because your body and your mind, or your brain, not your mind, your body and your brain are literally just, they have some sort of issue going on. Maybe it's your diet, maybe it's your sleep, maybe it's you're not exercising, but something's happening that's causing a neurochemical imbalance within the brain, and that makes the depression feeling. And it's not really fun or good, but that's how it be. And so for me, it was more so the latter, right? When I initially went through it in my life, it was not really for any reason in particular. Sure, some things were bad, but whose life isn't? But it was more so just there. This could be genetic. This could be a lot of things. It was probably just because I didn't really live a healthy lifestyle, and maybe a bit genetic, who knows? But anyways, so yeah, I've experienced it a bit. And so overall, for the past a few bits of my life, like maybe year and a half, 2 years, I kind of didn't deal with it anymore. I mean, obviously, I took my life and I fixed it up quite a bit. I sleep correctly. I exercise a little bit here and there as much as I can. School hates me, but I try to eat a little bit better as much as I can. My culture doesn't exactly make healthy food, so it's a bit challenging, but we do our best. And then, what was the other one? I tried, socializing more, and so talking to people more, and I, doing that more. And so overall, helped a lot, fixed more or less all of it. But, I've had some things recently which are hard. So if you remember my episode on the sunk cost fallacy, and if you haven't listened to it, go do that. Great episode. But it talked about quitting, and I think I'm not sure if I touched on it or not, but my major, I'm an electrical and computer engineering. If you've computer engineering major, I'm not done yet, but I'm getting a bachelor's degree. I don't really want to pursue a master's or a PhD because it's a lot of work, and I don't really like academia. I think research is awesome, but I don't think that doing it myself is something I'm too interested in. So following through and going through with academia isn't really something that I'm concerned with or thinking about doing. And so I'm in my second year, so 2 out of 4 of this ECE program, and I just recently got confirmed or accepted into a minor program for digital marketing strategy. But one thing that I've been thinking recently is, can I finish, or can I do, sorry for the breaths in the microphone, if you can hear that, good God. Can I do this engineering? So this might be a bit subjective, but from what I've heard over the course of my life, not just, being biased and doing it now, but electrical and computer engineering is probably the hardest engineering. It's just incredibly complex. It's like the basis for everything that you use. Like mechanical engineering is a lot of physics. You can see it, like you can work with it, you can build it, you can, like it's very visible, right? For material science, again, work with it, see it, the chemistry is there and everything. It's good. None of these are easy by any means, right? But electrical and computer engineering, it's on a very, very small and tiny scale. And for that reason, it's quite tough, depending on which route you go down. Computer engineering, some of it could really just be CS stuff, and that might be a little bit easier than, building circuits. And so for me, the thing that I was interested in since like sixth, seventh grade is working at Apple as a silicon engineer of some manner, right? I didn't know what it was called at the time, but now I know. I want to work with chips, right? I want to work with the M1. I want to work with if I ever get a job at Apple, it would be the M, whatever the frick number they're on, or the A, whatever they're on. Probably not the Apple Watch. That seems boring. But yeah, I would work on chips. And obviously, before I get a job at Apple or even after, I'll move around, right? So maybe I'll work on Google's Tensor chip at one point. Maybe I'll work with Intel, AMD, whatever. I guess. Oh wait, yeah. Global Foundries isn't the chip maker; they're just the manufacturer now. But that's what I want to work with. That's what I want to do. And not only is electrical and computer engineering probably the hardest, but that sector, micro nano, whether you go into CSI, which is chip scale integration, or the micro nano, both of those are also the hardest within the ECE field. And so I love math. I really do. Like, especially calculus. I'm a big fan of calculus. I think limits, derivatives, and integrals are just super fun to do. And regardless of what I do in my life, what point I am at life, I'm probably gonna like Google like calculus A/B problems and just do them for fun, because it really is fun. But I've never been really talented at mathematics. I've loved it. Yeah, the love of it was there. I super love thinking about it, like conceptually and theoretically. It's awesome. But I never was really, really good at it per se. I mean, for the most part, I got A's, but once I started getting to AP classes in mathematics, it was B's, right? Like middle to high B's, because it was rough. It was a struggle, and I failed a number of tests. But and I don't fail tests because I'm bad at taking tests. I'm pretty good at taking tests. I don't, not getting stressed and not getting nervous is a really big help for that thing, right? And so, anyways, I've never really been that great at it, and so I do my best. And obviously, so when you go into engineering, one thing you learn is that it's all math. It's all math. Like, that's literally all it is. Like, every single part of it, every single piece of it is mathematics, right? So the iPhone that I'm recording this on, the laptop that's behind me, the laptop that's in front of me as well, because I'm recording on a different laptop than whatever's in front of me. The electric circuitry in the light bulb that's on my face right now, on is that the left for you, or is that the right for you? I don't know. Whatever side it is, all of that, it's just math. Okay, they do a lot of math, they do a lot of calculations, and then they take the stuff and they put it together, and theoretically it should work. But real life is complicated, and sometimes you got to play with some values and play with some things, and obviously you have to put code in there to make sure everything like stays stable. But anyways, you do all of that, and yeah, it's all math, right? So when I go into my engineering classes, it's all math. Every single class, math. Well, the coding classes are a little bit less math, right? That's coding. And I mean, you need math for coding, but you more so need to understand syntax and how to put things together, and algorithmic thinking. I don't know how to describe it, I guess. But that's different. But when you go into the circuits classes, the classes that we deal with transistors, all mathematics, right? So you have a MOSFET, which is like the basic transistor that we like that's there's CMOS, but it's like a bunch of combination of MOSFETs. But like those, they have a gate, a source, and a drain, and so you just do a bunch of equations. Like there's a bunch of just like the quadratic formula or Pythagorean theorem, like the gate to source voltage has an equivalent formula depending on the region, which is complicated, right? But anyways, I find it fairly interesting to do those things, but to be honest, I'm not good at it. I'm really, really bad at it. And you've heard me make the jokes over my podcast and over the course of every episode and saying I have no free time, and I really don't, because I work super, super hard, and I have a lot of friends that are absolute and utter geniuses. They're really, really good at the major, and they're really good at all of it, and it's incredible to see that. but I can't relate to that. And to be honest, in terms of raw, like sheer hours, I probably put in like quite a bit more than them. Not because I'm smarter, not because I even work harder, but it's just I'm slower. I'm a lot slower. I just don't understand the concepts as well. It takes me more time to get things done. And a lot of times I have to go to them and ask for help either way. And so, to be honest, I don't even know if I'd be here in my sophomore year in my second semester, like if it wasn't for my friends who helped me over the course of a lot of the courses. And so, anyways, I've struggled through it a lot. And here's the sad thing. So if you guys have listened to this podcast, you know that I do a lot of research on biology, neurology, psychology. I've done some immunology and vaccinology, which are kind of a part of biology, right? So I did the mRNA episode. I did the episode on personality disorders and mental disorders. I did 4 episodes with over 200 research papers on sleep, and that's all biology and neurology. And so I did all of that, right? So these 3 fields, and also, of course, writing. Writing is kind of my talent. Writing is what I do it a lot, and I enjoy it, right? So other than this episode, the past, like, I don't even know how many episodes now have been fully scripted. Like everything, not all of it, like a lot, some things I come up with on the top of my head, but a lot of it, like 90% of all the past episodes and future episodes, we're not going to do this unscripted thing very often from now on, but those episodes are all scripted. I write a lot. And even before this podcast, I had a blog that I kept up with almost every week for like 4 or 5 years. And I wrote every single week, and I was writing. It was always writing. Writing is, I do writing. That's what I guess I'm a writer. I could identify with that like pretty fairly. And also then, my interests lie in looking at, I enjoy doing video editing. I enjoy photo editing, and I want to learn animating. And so all of these things, they don't really lend themselves to engineering. None of them will help me at all in engineering. To be honest, knowing half of the things I know won't help me with anything really, but I know them, right? So knowing everything about sleep isn't exactly helpful. The only helpful part is knowing how to sleep better, right? So knowing how sleep moves my memories and stuff, that doesn't actually impact my life in any significant way, right? But, it's interesting. But anyways, so my talent, my ability to learn things and my ability to comprehend, understand, and put everything together is really in those fields of biology, neurology, and psychology. And those fields lend themselves to me being a doctor and especially a psychiatrist. And so I've thought about that and I've considered that, but that's genuinely just not the life path that I want to go down. Doctors do great work, and I think doctors are amazing. 2 of my cousins are working very hard to become doctors, and I'm very proud of them, and it's really amazing to see them go. And they're very nice, very genuine people, and they want to be doctors because they want to help people. And that's not the path that I feel like is for me. Like, would I be good at it? Yeah, I'd be very good at it. But that's just not the thing that I want to do. I'm not sure why. Sometimes you're talented at something, sometimes you're good at something, and you just don't want to do it. And you feel a little bit bad because you see some people that work really, really hard at it, and they struggle through it. And you think, man, I wish that I could just give them all this talent that I don't want, right? And so like one of my cousins, they struggle a little bit in, working through the medical things, memorizing everything. And sometimes I wish I could just give you all of like my ability to do these things. Like all the things that you study like really hard for in class are things that I study in research papers for fun in my free time, right? There are things I read books about, etc., etc. And so it feels a little bit bad there, but it also feels bad because this thing that I am passionate about, working with chips and doing all of this, I just can't do it really. I feel that way, at least for the past, 4 semesters of my college career. That's how I felt. I just felt like I wasn't enough, and I felt like I can't do this. And I still kind of feel like I can't do this. And so recently I've had to come to, I had to ask myself, like, do I continue down this path, right? And so it's like, do I change my major? That's really the question. And if I did change my major, I'm pretty set I would switch to marketing. I just got my digital marketing minor, but with all of my interests in video editing, film video editing and film editing, video editing, photo editing, animation, writing, and persuasive writing, especially. I love persuasive writing, right? So these podcast episodes, they're kind of inspirational, more or less, whether I want to admit that or not, although I want to consider them somewhat educational. A lot of them do come down to an inspirational point, especially in the peroration near the last part of a lot of the topics. And so that lends itself, that inspiration is a form of persuasion, right? It's trying to get someone to do something. And yeah, sure, in my case, I'm not trying to make you buy a product. I'm trying to make you move forward in your own life. And I try to tell it in a way that's somewhat funny and somewhat good, bad, helpful. I don't know words, but so marketing is something I feel like I would be very, very good at. It's one of those things that just I feel like my talents lend themselves to, and I wouldn't mind doing marketing. That's why I'm getting a minor in it. But it's really hard. So for a few reasons. One, I feel like giving up really hurts, and especially because I do want to do the electrical engineering thing. I really do want to work with chips. I do want to go down and see like what it's like in that sector, and I really do want to finish the degree. I truly want to do that. But I don't know if I can. I feel so dumb so often. And I'm, enlightened monk Mashnor, your host here, right? I know all of these life things, and I tell you about how to not feel anything and how to be detached and super chubbed all the time, right? And to one extent that's true, right? I don't just say these things and not practice them. I don't just say these things and I'm not like this super anxious ridden person, like secretly. I don't do anxiety. I'm a very calm person, genuinely. I don't get stressed or nervous. My mind is always level-headed regardless of situations. If I fail an exam, I'm not gonna have a mental breakdown and be like, okay, well, how do I deal with this, right? I failed 2 exams recently, actually, but that's how I go about my life, and and so and and so that's what I'm just laughing at what the edit's gonna look like now. That's what I don't even know what I was gonna say anymore. Yeah, so I'm super calm and super level-headed. I'm very much so practicing what I preach, but being bad at it, it does have to come to a point where, like, just not even emotionally, but logically, like, is this a good idea? If I get a job in this sector, will I get fired for the job because I can't do it, because I'm that bad at it, right? That's a worry of mine. I want to be valuable to any team that I work with, especially if I go to Apple. I don't just want to sit there and revel in it. I would love to help, but if I'm not smart enough to be able to help, what's the point, right? That's kind of root that, like, doesn't matter anymore. It's kind of useless now. So that's what I have to really question and deal with. And it's really, really hard not feeling like you're enough, and also having brown Asian parents telling them that you want to go to marketing doesn't exactly bode well. And so all of it, I think, continuing to think about it and talking to some people that have finished PhDs and stuff that are willing to help me, they're telling me I can do it. I probably will finish. I think I probably won't switch. I don't think it's going to be easy. I don't think it's going to be fun. Like, one thing I want to do, really, I genuinely do, this isn't a joke, is post more to that YouTube channel. And now I'm not saying that with emptiness, right? Because I have posted to it. So the proof is there, right? I've done it. Now I've started. And I have a lot of video ideas that I write down, but I don't have the time to script out, work out, record all the different footage for, and also like animate for, because a lot of them require some bits and pieces of animation, and I just want to learn it a little bit more because there's a bunch of ideas I have that I just want to see come to life. I've also had the idea of writing fiction recently. I keep wanting to write like one, two or three stories, some of them short, some of them long, and just fiction. I've always been a nonfiction writer. My blog was always nonfiction. Obviously, this podcast is completely nonfiction, other than some stories I throw in here and there, which I want to re-narrate one of my stories because this microphone sounds really good, and when I recorded it the first time, it sounded awful. The story Drowning, that was really good. But Anyways, it really is a struggle. It hurts. It sucks, and it's not a fun decision to make whatsoever. I actually made an episode on hard decisions, and I also talked about the sunk cost fallacy. There is a point of like a part of me that says, "Wow, I've been doing this for like 2.5 years, or 1.5 years." Yeah, almost 2 years. So 1.5 years. Like if I quit now, I'm basically gonna have to like go through all of it. I'm gonna have to work super hard. I'm gonna have to take winter semesters and summer. I'm gonna have to do that anyways with my minor. But yeah, I have to run through all of that, work through all of that, and it's challenging, right? And so that has brought me down a bit, and I think that's reflected a little bit in my podcast, talking, speaking, and etc. My voice has been as soothing as ever, though, so you're welcome for that. But I think I sound a little bit more sad and how would you say, confounded, I suppose, and that's completely fair and fine and understandable. And we all struggle. Even your monk host here has some things that they have to work out and work through. And, at the end of the day, similar to what I tell you, yeah, everything's going to be fine, always going to be fine. It has to be, and everything is fine, of course, regardless of what I switch to, it's fine. I also do have to make the money consideration, right? I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and say money doesn't matter. So if I do get an ECE degree and I get a job, like my starting salary will probably be like 80 to 90,000 probably, and if I get a marketing job, my starting salary will probably be like 50, maybe 40, if I'm lucky, 60,000. And although I would be really good at it, and I think I could get raises and I could get promoted and I could go higher up, a marketer just isn't going to make the same amount as an engineer, probably, unless you're like even Craig Federighi, who's the CEO of Apple. He's a software guy. He's a coder guy. If I'm not wrong, that's like the team that he's like really in charge of, like Safari and just the experience, like the OS experience of Apple. And so even him, he's not really. I don't think he has a marketing background, but. Yeah, and so the money thing is a consideration, and this is the reason that I think that I'm going to stick with it. So marketing, I really am interested, and I think getting a marketing job would probably be what I'm good at. But so this is the thing. Like I said, I just got accepted for my marketing minor recently, and so this is probably what's going to happen. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to finish my engineering degree and just struggle through it. It's gonna suck, and there are gonna be times when I probably come back on this podcast and narrate something for you, and I still sound depressed. It's probably gonna happen, but I'm gonna finish the degree and work as hard as I can. I'm gonna keep trying harder. Sure, I put in a lot of time, and I have no free time at all to do any of the creative things I want. I've also had like an art piece I wanted to draw, but I suck at drawing it. But it's just a creative itch I have to do all these creative things recently, and to one extent, it's really awesome. I love the creative. I love the creative life. If you know Sarah Dici, then maybe you've heard of that. I really enjoy all those ideas coming to me, and it helps me with this podcast. It keeps me being creative, and I also need to think about this podcast and the marketing for this podcast, because I do really want it to grow, and so a lot of things to think about overall. But anyways, so that's I'm gonna hit 30. Every single episode for the past 3 weeks have been enormous. Goodness gracious, I haven't gotten a comment saying no one likes it. I don't think the dislikes are there. I mean, I get like 2 views per effing podcast episode on YouTube, so I don't know if anyone's really gonna dislike it. But yeah, actually, don't share this episode. This episode is kind of useless and really only for the people that really care about me, I guess, even though that's not really the point of the podcast. It's not really me focused. I don't really make content that's anyways. So yeah, what was I gonna say? I wanted to tie this back into overall something inspirational of, some sort of life is hard for everyone and you gotta work through it. And we all have issues, and sometimes you want to quit and it's really hard because you enjoy it versus what you're good at. And sometimes, anyways, like I was saying, the compromise, I didn't finish that. So yeah, finish the engineering degree, work really, really hard to get all of my minor checklists done because I started a little bit late. I'm going to be starting my minor basically my junior year. So hopefully I'll be taking some summer classes to get as much of it done because there's a lot of prerequisite things to worry about. So I can't just take all the classes all at once. That would be awesome, but it won't let me. But hopefully over the summer I can do 3 or 4 classes and knock out the elective parts and the 2 of the prerequisites. And then over winter, obviously through the fall semester, I'll do more. And then through the winter semester, I'll just focus on that. And maybe I'll do a little bit of my ECE classes. Who knows? Depends on how that would be a horrible idea because I'd only have like 1 month to go through an entire class and I can barely pass while doing it over 4 months. But, yeah, so if I get that minor, then I can apply for marketing jobs and I can say, hey, I want to get this marketing job. And again, I'm really good at it. I have this portfolio. I have this podcast. I have this, which hopefully the podcast will be big enough to say, look at how I've marketed my podcast. It's great. So please share the other episodes of Seriously Funny, especially with this great sound. This audio is actually really, really good. And I realized that it was my mixing that made the echo sound. So hopefully the echo sound isn't a problem anymore for you. Most of the audio listeners, I think I fixed it for the video version, but hopefully the audio on this episode that you're listening to right here sounds absolutely and utterly wonderful. I worked with the compressor a little bit. I played around with some of the EQs and stuff, and I figured it out a little bit more, and I think it sounds really, really good now. And I'm going to keep playing around with it here and there. I'm going to have some friends listen to a few things and see what's the best, but yeah. Anyways, getting off the point here. My throat's about to die. But yeah, I can apply for a marketing job and say I do have this engineering degree, so I can apply for a marketing job at a tech company, and I can work with Apple still. I can work with Google still. I can work with whatever still. I'm not going to work at Facebook. I would rather not work at Facebook. But, whoever gives me a job, right? I can apply to all of these tech companies and I can say, hey, I want to join the marketing team. But I also have experience and knowledge in engineering, so I can help market these products a little bit better because I know and understand the products a little bit more than the average marketer will. And hopefully that'll also increase my starting salary. And then I get to do what I want to and still connect it a little bit to what I wanted to the chip stuff. And maybe if I somehow become magically good at it, then I do get to just go ahead and work with chips as well. And I have that option open to me. And it really just... one of the quotes that I made up this quote recently, and I think it's really good, and it applies to this situation. How did my battery go down so much? Like, what happened exactly? Man, Audacity is really a battery hog here. But anyways, I made up this quote, and the quote was, "Don't trade an ocean for a pond." And it's really good, I think, and I think that's what it is here. So 2 more years of pain and suffering. I felt a lot of pain and suffering in my life. I'm kind of used to it. That doesn't ever make it good. It's a bit sad, but I'm kind of used to it. And I think 2 more years of just struggling through this the best that I possibly can and finishing it out and making sure that I do really well in those marketing classes. I think doing that and working on that will, in the long run for my life, help me out a lot. Obviously, in a perfect world, I would just be a full-time content creator through this podcast and YouTube and whatever other ideas I had. But, I don't know if I will be able to do that. It takes a lot of intelligence just by itself, and I'm going to work on it for sure. But, sometimes there's a little bit of luck involved. Other times it's the content that you make itself. It has to be, entered, like, I don't know what words to use here. It's complicated, I guess. But, what helps is that you listen to this podcast, maybe you watch my YouTube, and all of that is super helpful to me and really, really cool. And maybe one day I will be able to be a full-time content creator, and that would be sick. I'd have to work a lot more, but the work would probably be quite fulfilling. However, that probably won't happen. And so I do need a college degree and the ability to obtain and maintain a normal job. So just so I'm not homeless and I can live somewhat okay. I'm a celibate dude, so I mean, I really won't have to worry about money too much. Honestly, it shouldn't be more much of an issue. If I work at a like decent company, I'll get benefits, and like then it's really just a matter of buying a moderate, maybe small house. I don't really need that much space, and then a Tesla. That's it. That's all I want. That's really all I need. As a minimalist, I'm not here buying a bunch of stuff, but yeah, overall, that I think is all. I don't have much else to say. Yeah, this entire episode ended up being me talking about me and talking about my life and some of the struggles that I have been facing recently. And it may not compare at all to your struggles if you're listening to this. And if that's the case, I hope you can get out of it. And first of all, also just don't compare struggles. It's not worth it. If it's not the case, that's awesome. Whatever life you're living, that is beautiful and wonderful. But we all got to do what we got to do. We all have to go through what we have to go through, and we just have to do our best in that process. And as such, I'm going to do my best and probably do my best to try and finish this degree, although I might have to drop my statistics class, and that means I have to take it again later. And I really don't want to do statistics anymore. Man, goodness gracious, I am doing horrible. I'm going to hit 40 minutes on this episode because I haven't even started the outro. So let's start the outro now. Man, that's the second time I've done that today. So that's all for this episode of Seriously Funny. And music, I already talked about DC the Don's new album, right? My Own Worst Enemy. And so, yeah, I listened to it a bit more. Some songs are good, but overall, I think I preferred Come As You Are quite a bit more. Anime, I finished literally this morning, Joran, the Blood and Snow Princess. It was quite interesting. It was very strange, very, very strange sort of ending show. It was weird, man. I guess I'll recommend it. A strong female main character and kind of wholesome in a lot of parts, but like I didn't really like the ending. I wish it had gone a different way, but it wasn't bad, I suppose. I'm not sure. It was interesting to say the least, and a bit wild to say the least. And then I continued reading Oshinoko. Really, really still enjoying it. I'm on like chapter 51 now. I haven't caught up. I'm like 20 chapters away from catching up. I think it's at like 74 chapters or something. And so going over that will be, or catching up to that will probably be sad, but I'm really, really enjoying reading it for now. And I'm still going to give it a big recommend. Go read Oshinoko. And hopefully, maybe over spring break, I will grind out Oyasumi Punpun. I actually probably won't have time. Over spring break, I think I'm going to work on trying to get out two, maybe I'm just going to keep it at two YouTube videos. I'm going to try to get 1 week ahead on my podcast because I think I just need, I need to keep a few. Maybe I'll get 2 or 3 weeks ahead. I need to keep a few episodes of the podcast in the vault, just so every now and then I can take a break. Because I never want to skip a week. That's off the table for me, okay? But there are some weeks where maybe I just won't be creative enough. I won't have the time. I won't be able to record. And so finishing like 3 videos, especially because I've struggled managing my time enough to edit the podcast video. This is 40 minutes editing. This one's going to take editing. This is going to be absolutely abysmal. Next week I should have some time. It should be fine. Holy poop, I'm so screwed. Ouch. I just talked about how I'm struggling, and I made an episode about how I'm struggling, and this episode's going to make me struggle even more. Lovely. But yeah, I think that's all. I'm not sure what else I have for you. not much else has been going on. Just school sad, and so you're probably going to keep hearing jokes about me making fun of it, and because that's all it's worth right now, right? But yeah, maybe you'll hear about my marketing escapades and whatnot. And yeah, overall, I think this is an episode that I just wanted to give you. Just if you didn't listen to this one, that's absolutely fair. I guess if you didn't listen, you didn't get this far. But if you didn't listen, or if you did listen to this one, really, I should be saying, if you got to this point, especially, huge thanks. That means you either you listen to this just to hear my voice, in which case, you're welcome for upgrading my microphone, or you listen to this because maybe you know me, or maybe you just somehow, for some reason, you're a listener and you care about me and my life too, in which case that's awesome, and I thank you for that. Although I'm probably not going to talk too much about it in the future. So, one here, I'm not someone that's going to do update episodes like this one. That's not really my brand. But yeah, next week we should be going back to the regularly scheduled program of Seriously Funny, and we'll talk about something. I have no idea what, but something. And I'm sure it will be absolutely great, okay? But regardless, that's going to be all. I like how I say for every outro, that's going to be all 2 times. I say it once before I get on to anime and music, and then I say it once after all of that. But yeah, anyways, that's all for this episode of Seriously Funny. Again, if you listen to this all the way, especially, big thank you to you. Much love from me to you. I will see you, or not see you, I will talk at you next week. Peace.